What if I told you that a Buddhist monk in Tibet, a Hindu sage in India, and a Vedic rishi from 3,000 years ago all discovered the exact same truth about who you really are? And what if modern neuroscience is now proving they were right all along? Today, we're diving deep into the most profound teaching in human history, one that appears in Buddhism, Hinduism, and the Vedas, yet points to a single, life-changing realization. By the end of this video, you'll understand why every great spiritual tradition ultimately teaches the same fundamental truth: know yourself. But we're not just talking philosophy here. We're talking about practical techniques that can literally rewire your brain, backed by cutting-edge neuroscience. So, if you're ready to discover what these ancient masters knew about consciousness, reality, and your true nature, let's begin. Let me start with something that might surprise you. When Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree 2,500 years ago, when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and when the ancient Vedic seers composed the Upanishads, they weren't teaching different religions. They were pointing to the same fundamental realization about consciousness itself. The Buddha taught that our suffering comes from a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of self. He said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." But here's the key. He wasn't talking about positive thinking. He was pointing to something much deeper. The Buddha discovered what he called Buddha nature, the luminous, pure awareness that exists within every being. As the Tathagatagarbha Sutra states, every being has Buddha nature. This is the self. Now, thousands of miles away, Krishna was teaching Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita about this same eternal self. Krishna said, "The soul is never born and never dies. It is nitya, eternal, shashwata, permanent, and purana, ancient." He called this the Atman, the unchanging essence of who you are. And here's where it gets really interesting. The ancient Vedic texts, some of the oldest spiritual writings in human history, contain a Sanskrit phrase that captures this entire teaching in just 3 words. Tvam asi, thou art that. You are not separate from the divine consciousness that animates the universe. You are that consciousness. But if this is true, why don't we feel it? Why do we feel separate, isolated, struggling? All 3 traditions give us the same answer: Maya, the veil of illusion that makes us believe we're separate from the whole. The Buddha called this anatta, the illusion of a separate self. He taught that what we think of as me is actually 5 constantly changing processes: thoughts, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness itself. There's no fixed, separate self to be found anywhere. Krishna explained this beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita. As the all-pervading ether is not tainted because of its subtlety, similarly the self, seated in everybody, is not tainted. You are like space itself, everywhere present, yet untouched by anything that happens within it. The Upanishads give us a powerful method for seeing through this illusion. Nethi nethi, not this, not this. When you ask, "Who am I?" You can say, I am not this body. I am not these thoughts. I am not these emotions. What remains when you strip away everything you're not? Now here's where modern science gets really exciting. Neuroscientists have discovered something called the default mode network, a group of brain regions that create our sense of being a separate self. And guess what? When people meditate deeply, this network becomes less active. Advanced meditators show reduced activity in exactly the brain areas that create the illusion of separation. Dr. Judson Brewer at Yale found that experienced meditators have permanently altered this network. Their brains have literally rewired themselves to experience less separation and more unity. The ancient masters were describing objective neurological states. So how do we actually realize this truth? Amazingly, all three traditions offer the same fundamental practices, just with different names. The Buddha taught vipassana, insight meditation. You simply observe whatever arises in consciousness without getting caught up in it. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, you watch them arise and pass away, recognizing that you are the awareness in which they appear. Krishna taught multiple paths in the Bhagavad Gita. Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, where you inquire, who am I? Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, where you surrender the ego to the divine. Karma Yoga, the path of action, where you act without attachment to results. And Raja Yoga, the path of meditation. The Vedas gave us Atma-vichara, self-inquiry. The practice is beautifully simple. Whenever you notice thoughts or emotions, ask, to whom do these belong? The answer is always to me. Then ask, who am I? Don't look for an intellectual answer. Look for the awareness that's asking the question. Modern research shows that just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation increases gray matter in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus while reducing it in the amygdala, the fear center. Your brain literally becomes more peaceful and wise. But here's the beautiful part. You don't need to retreat to a monastery or study for years. You can practice this right now. When you're walking, ask who is walking. When you're thinking, ask who is thinking. When you're feeling stressed, ask who is feeling stressed. Each time, you're stepping back into the observer, the witness, the true self. The convergence between ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience is absolutely stunning. Let me share some findings that will blow your mind. Tibetan monks practicing loving-kindness meditation show gamma wave activity higher than any humans previously recorded. One monk showed gamma waves so intense that scientists called him the happiest man in the world. These are the same gamma waves associated with heightened awareness and compassion. Studies on advanced meditators show something remarkable. During deep meditation, the areas of the brain that normally process self and other begin to merge. The boundary between inner and outer experience dissolves. Scientists are literally measuring the neurological basis of unity consciousness. Dr. Zoran Josipovic at New York University has identified what he calls non-dual awareness, a brain state where the typical subject-object duality collapses. The experiencer and the experienced become one. This is exactly what the Upanishads describe as Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Perhaps most remarkably, researchers have found that people who report mystical experiences, whether through meditation, psychedelics, or spontaneous awakening, show similar brain patterns across cultures. The neural signatures of transcendence are universal. The ancient Sanskrit terms sat, chit, ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, perfectly describes what neuroscientists are now measuring. Pure existence, sat, corresponds to baseline awareness, consciousness, chit, to the knowing quality of mind, and bliss, ananda, to the deep peace that comes from recognizing your true nature. Now, you might be wondering, this all sounds beautiful, but how do I actually live this understanding? All three traditions emphasize that realization without application is just philosophy. Start with what the Buddha called sati, the mindfulness. Throughout your day, simply notice, who is hearing these sounds? Who is seeing these sights? You're not trying to answer conceptually. You're pointing attention back to the awareness that's always present. Krishna's teaching is equally practical. He said, yoga is skill in action. Whether you're working, eating, or talking with friends, ask, how can I act from love rather than fear? How can I serve the greater good? This isn't about being perfect, it's about remembering your true nature moment by moment. The Vedic practice of japa, repetitive chanting, is incredibly powerful. You can silently repeat, Soham, I am that, throughout your day. On the inhale, so on the exhale. You're literally programming your nervous system to remember your divine nature. Modern psychology calls this cognitive restructuring, but the ancient masters knew it as satsang, keeping company with truth. The more you remember who you really are, the more that remembering becomes your natural state. Here's something profound. You don't need to achieve this state. You already are this state. Buddha nature, Atman, pure consciousness. This isn't something you get in the future. It's what you are right now. The practices don't create awakening. They simply remove the obstacles to recognizing what's already here. So, what is this one truth that Buddha, Krishna, and the Vedic seers all pointed to? It's breathtakingly simple. You are not who you think you are. You are not your thoughts, your emotions, your body, or your personal history. You are the awareness in which all experience arises. The Buddha called this Dharmakaya, the body of truth. Krishna called it Brahman, the absolute reality. The Vedas expressed it in the great saying, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, different words, same recognition. Modern neuroscience is confirming what contemplatives have known for millennia. Consciousness is not produced by the brain, it's the fundamental fabric of reality itself. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. This isn't just spiritual poetry. This understanding can transform your relationship with stress, conflict, and suffering. When you know who you really are, you can't help but see that same essence in others. Compassion becomes natural. Peace becomes your default state. The ancient Greeks said, know thyself, but Buddha, Krishna, and the Vedic masters showed us exactly what that means. You are the eternal, unchanging awareness that witnesses all experience. You are the consciousness that dreams the world into being. You are that. If this video opens something in you, I invite you to begin or deepen your practice today. Start with just 5 minutes of self-inquiry. Ask, who am I? And listen not with your mind, but with your heart. The truth you seek is closer than your own breath. Remember, this isn't about becoming something new. It's about recognizing what you've always been. Buddha nature, Atman, pure consciousness. This is your birthright. This is who you are.